It's a day of very important judgments in the Supreme Court, and one of those landmark judgments is undoubtedly the Supreme Court now directing that the way the Election Commission is appointed, all of its members, including the Chief Election Commissioner and the Election Commissioners, will be changed. Essentially, now there will be a 3-member committee that will nominate all of the candidates for these very crucial positions. Now, what was happening before and what's happening now? That's important to understand. Up till now, the President would appoint the Chief Election Commissioner, and the President was advised, usually in practice, by the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. Hearing a clutch of petitions, the Supreme Court has now said that the new system will be that a committee including the Prime Minister, the Leader of Opposition and the Chief Justice of India will be the people who will give a list of candidates for the position of Chief Election Commissioner, and then of course the President will make the final appointment. Is this a game changer? Will this bring more transparency into the office of the Chief Election Commissioner, which is undoubtedly a crucial element in India's democracy? Will it also stop the barbs and jibes and accusations of the opposition that this is no longer a completely fair position, and that the Chief Election Commissioner or the Election Commission acts in favor sometimes of the ruling party? These are accusations that have cropped up time and again, and even more frequently in the last few years. Now, to speak on this, I'm joined today by Jagdeep Chhokar of the ADR, the Association of Democratic Reform, and his organization was also one of the petitioners in this case. Mr. Jagdeep, thank you so much for speaking with us on Beyond the Headline on a day that this judgment has come through. Are you satisfied? Do you think that this addresses some of the concerns that you've raised in your petition?
Yes, I think it's a good judgment. It will bring, or let me say, it has the potential to bring a certain amount of objectivity and transparency to the process of appointment of election commissioners and also the Chief Election Commissioner. There is a certain amount of concern because the appointments of the Chief Vigilance Commissioner, etc., and the Director of CBI happen through a similar committee, and they have not always been totally satisfactory. But this is what we had requested, and this is what we have got, in addition to the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner and the election commissioners being done or being recommended by a committee consisting of the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition in the Lok Sabha, and the judgment goes on to say specifically that if there is no Leader of the Opposition, Leader of the largest numerical group in the Lok Sabha, and the Chief Justice of India. This is a step in the right direction. But one of the judges has also added that the 2 election commissioners should be given the same constitutional protection that is given to the Chief Election Commissioner, which means they will not be, they cannot be removed unless going through a process of impeachment like that of a Supreme Court judge. And their terms and conditions of service should be exactly the same as that of the Chief Election Commissioner. Only one of the 5 judges has said that. The majority judgment does not say this bit. This is certainly an important judgment. It has, I think, shown that the judiciary is still willing to take up issues of public interest where the entire political establishment is not in favor of it. The judgment actually goes on to say that any political party which is in power will not want to give up any of such powers. So it's a very extensive judgment. It's something like 289 pages.
Right.
I have only looked through it. It is not possible to read through the whole thing in such a short time. But it seems to be
I want to understand real-world implications, Mr. Jagdeep, and let me contextualize this. For example, the head of the CBI is also, that name is proposed by a similar composition of committee, where the opposition and the judiciary also have a voice. Even so, to the current day, opposition parties very often constantly accuse the CBI of acting in a political motivated manner. And this is through governments. We remember CBI caged parrot. This is going on even now. So will this really change that perception on ground? Because that's the important point, isn't it, at the end of the day?
That is why I said it's a very important and a very good step. It does not take us all the way, but it will now at least provide information as to what happens in that committee. First of all, the leader of the opposition, whoever the party in opposition may be, and the Chief Justice of India, I think one can expect, and that's all one can do at this stage, to expect these two people to not necessarily toe the line of the party in power or the government of the day. If these two people who are in the committee perform their roles as they are constitutionally expected to, then I think a significant amount of change can be expected. But then it depends on the individuals concerned who are in that committee, and that only time will tell as we go along.
Yeah. You know, in terms of the role of the election commissioner and the chief election commissioner and the EC overall, and the questions that have been raised, do you think that some of these have been over the top, in the sense, and I know you're a petitioner in the case, but opposition often is quick to blame and quick to rush into blaming the EC whenever things don't go their way. Will this actually put an end to or temper those political barbs? Because now the next time that happens, you know, anyone can turn around and say, but the way that this individual and this position has been filled is in a transparent manner.
You see, the credibility of institutions like the Election Commission are not a one-day affair. Reputations of such institutions get built over a period of time, and they also tend to get unbuilt over a period of time. Although I must say, the time taken to build a reputation is longer than the time taken to spoil a reputation. But if there is, you see, there is this very well-known saying or a cliche that the Election Commission should not only be fair, it should also appear to be fair. What happens in the electoral process is in the public domain. If a series of events over a long period of time of, let us say, 3 years or 5 years, indicate that one type of decisions are getting made, then there are concerns about the functioning of the Election Commission. But if the decisions taken over a period of time, let's say 3 years or 5 years, are even-handed, some go against the opposition parties and some go against the ruling party, then people at large seem to have faith in the process. So Election Commission has to earn its reputation for its neutrality, its non-partisanship. It had that reputation till about a few years ago, as you rightly said. But over the last few years, that reputation seems to have suffered significantly.
So which brings me back to the basic question I started with. Will today's judgment change that?
Well, today's judgment, as I said in answer to your question in the beginning, has the potential to change that. Whether it actually changes that, only time will tell.
Absolutely, time will tell, and we hope it does, for the betterment of, you know, and the strength of democracy in this country. Whether those accusations that are leveled very often are fair or unfair, they do go to some extent to tarnish the image of the Election Commission. And right now, this judgment is no doubt a game changer in that direction. Thank you so much.
On this point, let me add a little bit.
Sure.
The issue at stake is not necessarily of an institution or several institutions. It is the sense of responsibility of the entire political establishment. As you rightly said, political parties, when they lose elections, they find fault with the election commission. When they win elections, they do not find fault with the election commission.
Absolutely, absolutely, exactly, exactly.
Political parties need to behave in a mature, responsible way, and that can only happen when they are made internally democratic by law, which unfortunately they have to make through their
Well, that's a bigger question for a different day. But for now, thank
Yes,
you so
indeed.
much, Mr. Chhokar,
Yes.
for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.